And that's when I had that aha moment. Like, unequally yoked doesn't mean just, the general, you believe in God and you believe in, the word of God, or you believe in the flood or whatever, but it goes to more practical day-to-day beliefs.
This also reminds me of another verse that says, can two walk together without an agreement?
That's a great one.
Yeah, because two people have to have an agreement to walk together, right?
How would you feel in those moments where you felt you were going against your values, or like, how was that? And I think it's very important to prayerfully consider the genuineness of the person, because either there will be kind of two things that we've observed, I think, through other relationships, is that either suddenly there will be a change that completely is like a 180, like the person completely changed and now they are, the spiritual person or the modest person or the, I don't know, the gentleman, proactive guy or whatever it might be. Is like, whew. Welcome to Happily Ever After with the Raj family. Today we have a very important question. What does it actually mean to be equally yoked? There's a verse in the Bible that says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. So as Christians, we believe we should be equally yoked, but honey, what does that mean to you, or what is your perspective on that?
This also reminds me of another verse that says, can two walk together without an agreement?
That's a great one.
Yeah, because two people have to have an agreement to walk together, right? And let's take that as an analogy in this case as well. Like, they both need to agree, first of all, to walk together. Number two, they will need to agree on which pace they are going to go, how long they're going to be walking together. Without that agreements, they're not going to do the walking together. And that applies with life as well. Two have to agree where they stand, what they do, and how their life is going to be. Then they can come together. That is equally yoked. It also has several more layers to it. What does equally yoked mean? The other thing is values. Do my values match with yours? I cannot say, like, I'm going to do this, and this, and you cannot come and say, oh no, those are not some things that I want to have as part of my life, and yet think we can live together, we can be married together. And that goes with anything in the in a family realm. So that's what I would say equally yoked means.
So for you, when you were like in your 20s, late 20s, basically before we met, how were you trying to implement that in your personal life with the equally yoked concept? How, or was that even something you really thought about? How was it?
So the first one, I didn't really think too deep into that. I definitely was not mature enough to get married in my 20s. I know for sure, because I didn't even know what I wanted in my life. Only one thing I knew very clearly that I wanted in my life, and that was someone that I will marry that has the same faith as I do. I was not going to compromise on that. But besides that, I did not really see anything else as a priority or as a value. So that is where my equally yoked looked like.
Okay, so basically having the same main faith belief. Okay. And later on, that got fine-tuned with more understanding or maturity, or just...
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, I mean, it is still the same. Oh, it was still the same before marrying you. That of the same faith that will be always, right? The things that I developed more was that how will the other person dress? Because I would like to be dressed modestly, and I expect my wife to be dressed modestly as well. I was not planning to compromise on that. Now, different people have different values, different ways of seeing. For some people, dressing one way is modest, and for the other person, it might be very different. But this is my life, and personally, for me, there is a certain way of dressing, and that I was very particular about. And also, there were certain aspects of life, no manipulation, and what else was equally yoked. I think still predominant thing would be faith. It still will be my faith, but there are other core values as well, which I have shared in several times in different episodes. But those are my things that I would say as equally yoked.
So basically, it grew from the same faith to then aligning and not going against your core values that were important.
And how about for you? Was there anything that you have thought and you wanted to be equally yoked with?
I guess it was similar to yours. I kind of was like, okay, we need to believe the same thing, which it's a big thing actually, because we see it as foundational, but for many it's like, oh, I can compromise if we believe differently on spiritual things, that's fine. But for me it was important that we had the same faith. Like, if I believe that the 10 commandments are important and that that's part of God's character and he wants to put that in my heart, I wanted someone that believes in that. If I believe in the Godhead, that there is Holy Spirit, and so those main biblical beliefs that I think are valuable and that I want to live by God's grace, not legalistically, but genuinely accept them. I wanted someone that also values those things, and we can grow together.
Yeah.
So that for me was foundational. But later on, I think I had the aha moment, because I thought that was it. If we had the same faith, then we, were equally yoked. But later on, even having, interactions with gentlemen that we were of the same faith, I realized that I felt so off. Like we were so not walking the same path. Like we were so unequally yoked. And that's when I had that aha moment. Like unequally yoked doesn't mean just, the general, you believe in God and you believe in, the word of God, or you believe in the flood or whatever, but it goes to more practical day-to-day beliefs.
Absolutely.
Like I believe that what goes in our mind and our eyes will impact, and for my children I want to guard that. But someone else might believe in God's word but might be like, oh, anything we watch doesn't affect me. So that's when I was like, wow, I'm actually very unequally yoked in this relationship. And it's going against my values and my conscience. And that's when I had the aha moment that equally yoked basically means faith, but also those foundational principles that God has placed in your heart, which differs from person to person, even in Christian circles. Even if you are the same faith, you can be totally unequally yoked.
Yeah. I think it is more of what is the vision, right, for both parties in a marriage. It's not what you want and what I want, and it is two different things. It cannot be that way. Then it is definitely not equally yoked. Even if we are of the same faith, we might have different values, different lifestyle, different patterns. Lifestyle is another thing. I am not a party animal, so I don't like to go to parties and stay up all night long and all those things. That is not part of my thing. I want to marry someone that also sees the way I see it. I'm not into drinking alcohol or smoking or doing mind-altering drugs, and I want my partner to see the same thing as well. If they don't have that same type of vision, that's okay. That's their life. That's their lifestyle. They can do whatever they want to, but it cannot be equally yoked. So I have certain things, certain qualities, certain values, certain vision for my future family, and the other person sees it that way, not forced. I'm not saying someone should be
Right.
feel like, if I have to marry this person, I have to quit drinking. Okay, let me quit drinking so that I can marry them. That's forced, right? But they also have the same vision. Okay, I don't want to drink alcohol. I don't want to do mind altering drugs because of this X, Y, and Z reasons. So then you are coming to a point where you are equally yoked. You are not doing it for others, and you have the freedom to do it, but it's not confusing the other person.
And just as a disclaimer, we're talking about observing to continue in a relationship or get into a relationship or move forward in marriage. Once you're married, let's say we were both, into parties and drinking and we got married, and then you change and you don't want that anymore, but I continue. It's not now the time to say, oh, we're unequally, so I'm letting go. That's a more sensitive case, and even God says that the faithfulness of one spouse can save the other one. So marriage is a very holy union that God highly values and instituted. So it is completely different topics. One thing is when we're married, even if we feel we're not walking together, we will have to pray and we will have to ask God for wisdom and be faithful and pray that we can align, but it's not the time to say, oh, we're unequally yoked. So we're talking in the relationship phase. But what if in the process of relationship, you sense that someone, it's not really equally yoked, you don't want to force them, but how to deal with that?
So first thing is I will definitely confront them and ask them, hey, I was thinking this way about you, but I am understanding, or I just learned about you in this aspect. Which one is it? I don't want to assume and move forward or back off. I want to know what is their reality. And then when they share their reality, I will evaluate if it is my value or not, if that is something that I want to move forward with or not. And if let's say, like for example, let's say I find out that she does drugs, right? And that's part of her life and she doesn't see anything wrong with it. I'm not going to force her, because for me, it is not part of my life, but it can be part of her life. If she is interested to learn, I can share my views, my perspective and all of that, but I don't want her to change because I am telling her to change. If she wants to change, she can change because she is seeing it more in a way I see it.
So you have to perceive that there's a personal desire and belief, not just like trying to please or accommodate.
Exactly. If she is not wanting to change, obviously I am going to back off, because that is my core value, one of my core values, and it definitely will not be equally yoked. In fact, I have had instances where, not necessarily drugs, but in other aspects of life, I was willing to compromise on my core values even after developing it. And later on, I found out, like, if I had to compromise on this one specific core value, there were several other things that were tied up to it, and I had to compromise on several other things.
It's crazy,
And so I couldn't move forward, and I didn't want to move forward because it almost felt like I have to move forward swallowing all the things that I love and value dearly, but still I have to compromise on them and move forward because the other person is like that. And for a couple months I did try to do that, but I was very uncomfortable. I was not happy with myself, and I had to back off from that because it was not for me. Now I'm trying to make myself so in such a way that we will be equally yoked, and it doesn't work that way. Because when God puts certain things in your heart, it has certain things in your heart, and it has a foundation to it. It has taken roots to it. And if the other person is not seeing it, I'm not accusing them. They're not
It's
necessarily
just
bad
not
people.
equally yoked.
Exactly.
Someone else would match and value what they value and vice versa. So,
Yeah.
yeah. And how would you feel in those moments where you felt you were going against your values, or like how was that?
For me, it was not a pleasant feeling, even though superficially I tried to make myself excited. Oh, this is going to work and yada yada yada. But that is just with the first step. Okay, I'm seeing something that I don't value as my personal core value, but I'm okay to compromise right now because they might change in the future. We always have that issues. We always assume that or presume that they are going to change.
Or wish.
Yeah. And then there is something else that comes into the picture. I'm like, okay, maybe that was not my core value, so I can compromise on that. And then a couple other things came into the picture. I was like, man, I'm losing my identity with this whole thing. I'm losing myself. I'm losing my mind, because it feels like I have to compromise everything that I value dearly. And it was a very uncomfortable situation for me, even though the girl had no clue about any of these things, because here I'm trying to make things. And then when the girl started making certain statements, she didn't know what were my core values, so she started making certain statements, and I'm like, okay, so she's totally opposite to what I believe as my core value. And then when I came out of that mindset, and also that, I don't know, crush, came out of that crush, it felt like a burden was lifted off of me. Now I can have my core values. I can feel free. I can find someone that actually matches with what I believe and values what I believe. So it changed. It made a whole change in my mind and heart and freed me.
It's like God created us and gives us very valuable things throughout our journey that He wants us to embrace, and it becomes part of who we were created to be. But if we have to let them go, or hush them, or take what someone else values when it's not what God has given us, as you said, it's like we lose who we are meant to be in Christ. And that doesn't mean someone is not good. Just we are compromising God's purposes for us, for fitting in with someone else, or just making things work. But
and also, this is something we've already shared, is that we can pretend to compromise on those things, but it goes for only so long.
Deep down, they are still important, or like we cannot forget them.
Yeah.
Or
and one day it will burst up. Right. Now, I have a question for you. What if your core values are different? Put me as an example. Your core values in couple things, it's different, and I am willing to change. How would you deal with it? How would you see it?
well, I think we had that experience ourselves. I had a lot of core values, by the way, that throughout the years I got clearer and clearer of what I wanted, what I didn't. And so I was very clear, because I needed clarity in relationships, to know what I really was willing to compromise and what it was going against my conscience and my purpose of life. So I came up with like 24 things. And when we met, it was like he was checking most of them, but there were a couple that we were not fully in alignment. And so I knew that either God needed to bring it together, or I wouldn't have peace and I would have to let it go. So we spoke about it. You were willing to consider my perspective, and we prayed about it. We gave each other time. We went to counseling to get advice and better understanding, and other things we just talked through, like, okay, this is my value because of this and this. You might not be there yet, but can you respect that and value what I value, even if right now you cannot say I value the same way you do? And then can we meet at a place where we feel comfortable if we move forward? So I think when core values don't align, but the other person is willing to learn to grow and to practically not just say it like, oh, I'm willing to, it's fine, I can go with that. Not just say it, but really you see the necessary changes and you see that genuine, like, okay, you have a point, or, I value that. And so after time of prayer, individually processing it and seeing what needed to be done, then we came into alignment. I had peace and I saw God working things out where that was not anymore a difference. It was just we were processing through different aspects, but we came to the same understanding.
And also from my perspective, I definitely saw it very different from how Debbie was seeing it. Growing up, even though it was India, it was becoming westernized, and I did not have a very solid foundation in Christ at that time. So for me, certain things were fine. And but then after getting into this relationship, she said something, and she shared her core values, and I was like, But then after my personal conviction, after praying and after thinking about it, I was like, it is actually a good core value to have, and I don't mind compromising on my way of reasoning, my way of thinking. And I did put efforts, and I changed the way I thought. And now it is not because what she shared, it is because I believe it to be true and it is my core value. And that is very important for people to understand, because I did not change because of her. She was a trigger point for me for the change, but it was not because of her I changed. I changed because of what I saw as a beneficial and a core value for myself as well. And that is something very important for people to understand, because you shouldn't change your core values because the other person has a core value and you want to become equally yoked.
We have something exciting that we want to share. Maybe you're like, what is the strength in my relationship? How is the quality of my relationship like? How can I gauge or get an idea where I'm at or what things maybe I need to grow?
Or you might not even know how your relationship is growing, and you are trying to figure it out and you don't know how to figure it out. We have a beautiful free resource for you. It is a 3-minute relationship strength quiz. You can find it on our website. It's free for everyone. You can just go put our website. We'll put it here right here. It's called naturalhealingproject.com, and then you just scroll down. You will be able to find, it says relationship strength quiz. It is for anyone that is committed, single, or in relationship. Feel free to go and check it out and do the quiz.
You will get a percentage of the strength of your relationship with the answers you give and some tips, advice, and suggestions to move forward in strengthening even more. And I think it's very important to prayerfully consider the genuineness of the person, because either there will be kind of two things that we've observed, I think, through other relationships, is that either suddenly there will be a change that completely is like a 180, like the person completely changed and now they are, the spiritual person or the modest person or the, I don't know, the gentleman, proactive guy or whatever it might be. Is like, whew, it changed, that it's like, okay, like it's a completely new person. That can be a red flag, because if someone completely changes too quickly, did they even have time to process? Did they really invest time, or they just change because they just want this to work? So that is one way.
Before you share the other one, I just want to add to it is that many times when the other person is changing, it is usually when they are in the edge of breakup. When the other person is going to break up, immediately this person wants to make the changes quickly just so that they will be equally yoked. And that you can clearly see it is not how that works.
Because then if you get married, the person will still be who they are, and there's no more breakup after you get married. So that was just like a desperation act of, oh, let me do what needs to be done to keep it. So it's
Yeah.
not really full-heartedly. So that's one thing, like the fast, desperate change for making it work. And the other one is that as you dialogue, as you talk, you will have this sense that there's something really against it. Not a willingness to pray, a genuine desire to understand, and a genuine conviction. Or so you kind of need to be prayerful because only God can reveal what is the truth, but also observe how the person deals with it. Because similar differences I had in other interactions with young men, and it would be more like, oh, I don't see it, or they would really have their strong conviction in an opposite way, and they had all their reasons why. And so it was like, you realize that they are not flexible or willing, but more stuck in their way. So even though it might sound like, okay, I'm willing to pray, or, kind of they evade the topic, minimize it, but you can see the undercurrent is they have a very strong different value. So it just clashes. It's like there's no really even willingness to understand and value what you value. So that's the other way that it can turn into.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other aspect of equally yoked can be work for husband and work for wife, how they see it as well, right? Because not every wife wants to stay home, and not every wife wants to go and work. That is something also depends on what the husband wants and what the wife wants. So the man can be like, I want my wife to stay home and take care of my family and children. And there are men that say, I want my wife to go and work, and we are partners together. That also actually plays a role in equally or unequally yoked, right?
That's huge component of life that you kind of have to see if you align or not, because if not, you're going to be miserable one way or the other, like whatever is your...
Yeah, because that is also a lot of dynamics there, different dynamics there, because there are some men that want the wives to work, right? Want the wives to go work and be partner with them in financial aspects and all of that. But there are some women that pretend to be, I'm all for working, but then after they get married, they don't work anymore, and vice versa. Also, things happen like the husbands want the wife to stay home, take care of the children and the family and all of that. Maybe initially the girlfriends at that time or the fiance would be like, yeah, that is what I want to do. But then right after getting married, they are like, I want to work as well. I want to have a purpose or value in my life as well. How do you think people can work that out beforehand, even before getting married?
I think you need to have clarity what you envision for a family. Like, for me, I knew that as single, I wanted to work full time. Then as married, I wanted to have more of a part-time responsibility in work, not full time all the time. There are times maybe, yes, but long term, this was my vision, part-time work, and kind of also entrepreneurial and developing things from home, and also having really the time to invest in my home, my marriage, our growth as a family. So, and then if I became a mom, I knew that at least for the first years, be it 10 years or whatever, the formative educational years, I wanted to be a stay-home mom, and maybe I can work on deciding things that would not interfere with my children. So it would be like side things, I mean, there's many things I do, so and I think I'll never stop having ideas. So
Yeah.
it's like, you know, developing comfrey salve or this and that, or doing programs from home and include my kids in it. So that was kind of my vision, have more as like a family teamwork. And I have my mom models that I follow and get inspired in how to have a thriving life with purpose and also kind of a mission, even if I have young kids, so that we can all work together. But family and they're my priority. Everything else would branch from then. And so that was very clear and still is in my mind. And I just wanted a husband or a man that would see that value, respect it, and encourage it. And
Yeah. But my point is that what if it changes, or there is a possibility of it to change? Is there a way to notice it while the couple is still in a relationship?
I mean, I guess you can speak about different scenarios and see how you feel about it, just to kind of explore the different possibilities. Like, let's say for a time you can't work. How would I feel being the provider or working at that time? You know,
Yeah.
am I willing? Or I would be like, that would be terrible. And things happen. And we've gone through like all of them. We just don't have kids as of
As of
now.
now.
But we've gone through both working full time, me working part time, me working more when you couldn't because of legal papers and stuff. So all of those things are things I think we kind of explore a little bit, and then we also had to face it as we went. So I think maybe it's talking about scenarios and being like, this is our goal, this is our vision. But if this and this happens, how would we want to work through that?
Yeah, totally. And the reason we are bringing up this topic about the women staying home or women going to work is because that is something many times people don't talk about in their relationship unless it is spoken about, unless they make it as a priority to speak about, because then the guy assumes or the girl assumes, and then there is a whole lot of chaos.
Frustration.
Yeah. So the husbands need to know, or the men need to know what they look for in their future spouse. The girls need to know what they look for in their future spouse as well. And also what is their purpose, what is their goal. Are they going to work or are they not going to work? It has to be very clear. People can choose whichever direction they want to. There is no right or wrong for the nucleus. But you need to know what is best for you. If you don't want to work after you're married because you want to take care of the family, that will be your priority, but you're willing to do something on the side, as Debbie was sharing, and that is what she does. Perfect. Share it with the guy. Don't expect the guy to know by magically that this is what is in your mind. Same thing. If you want to work after getting married, share it to the guy. And the same goes with the guys as well. What type of wife you're looking for, share it with the girl so she can make a well-informed decision. And if the girl is wanting to work, you cannot go and expect her to stay home and take care of the family. That would be a wrong thing. Maybe she might be fine with few months or first year or so. If she's really career driven, she's not going to stay home, even if she says initially, I'm willing to sacrifice and stay home. So you guys have to be clear, talk about it, be upfront. You cannot have any gray areas where neither of you are unsure or bringing assumptions into the picture, thinking like, oh, I think you are just going to stay home, or I think you're going to support me by working, or the girl is like, oh, I assumed because I have work right now, I will be working after we get married. So there is all those things. You have to talk about that even before your engagement. While you are in the relationship phase, courtship phase, talk about it. Bring it out. Bring it all out. It can be sensitive. It can be kind of hard to talk about, but those conversations help you a great deal after you get married.
Because it's so true. Not only it can lead to feeling unequally yoked, but it can lead to a lot of frustrations later on in life. And we've heard from married couples that, the husband is disappointed because the wife is never at home and family, children is not her priority, or other type of dynamics that really make just more strain in the relationship. And maybe it was processed and then things changed, or maybe it was never really processed together, and so now they just live together but they don't feel it's what they wanted from a marriage. So
in our relationship, Debbie one day brought her notebook. She shared a couple points about what she sees as her values, and then she shares. And the other thing that I see is, once we get married and we have children, for me, family is the priority. Work, everything comes afterwards. For me, family is the priority, and I won't be going to work. I just want you to know that. I was blown away because I never saw my wife going to work after getting married. Now, when she shared that, I was really thrilled about it. I was like, wow, that I'm totally fine with that, because that's exactly what I was looking for in a wife. That might not be the case for you guys. You might be in different pages. You might want the wife to stay home and or the girl to stay home, but the girl is not someone that wants to stay home, feels like she's pinned down, so she doesn't want to stay home. Is that really something that you want to move forward with a marriage? Evaluate.
And I would say, this is just a message for ladies, I guess, from a lady. If whatever is your goal, your vision, really find your purpose. Find that passion, that meaningful part of why you are in this world. Because no matter where you are, there's different ways you can make that happen. If for a time God calls you to be at home because maybe you have little ones, or you are in a place that maybe you don't find the job that maybe you're trained or you want to work. As ladies, having that passion and purpose and meaning, no matter where we are, is foundational for us to also thrive and be happy and feel useful. So that aspect should be, no matter if you're a stay-at-home, you go and work, we should have that passion and meaningful purpose that we live for. And we all as human beings need that, honestly. But I'm just saying this because when we find our purpose, there's like so many different ways, creative ways. And so just get creative in how you can develop it. Because many times, even if like a lady says, I want to stay home and just take care of the home. What is your vision for taking care of the home? What is something you want to develop and do? There's many girls that develop their homestead type of place where they cook and decorate and do farm, and like there's so much you can do from home that actually is like a whole world of possibilities. So to see it with a bigger vision, whatever it is that you want to do, and not be how to say it, like fall into just a routine
Or
and
feel stuck,
or feel like you don't have a purpose, or like you have nothing to do and you feel bored, because that can destroy your growth. There's always courses, trainings, things you can take nowadays. Learn, keep learning and keep dreaming and implementing and trying, because that's very, very important for any human being. But I'm just speaking to ladies specifically because that is very valuable. And yes, we can become overly ambitious and overly goal-oriented. And so that's another topic, like time management and learning to set things aside and organize and manage a family. But
yeah. So it is very important for us to understand the aspects of equally yoked. And if you start seeing those type of unequally yoked signs in your relationship, I think it's time for you to reevaluate and see if there is a relationship you want to move forward in your marriage or not. And now, if you also see that you are equally yoked, or if you don't know how to see you are how to see if you both are equally yoked or not, we just shared all the points. Go back and listen to them. You will be able to get more ideas and understanding, and to ask. The first and foremost thing you will have to do is you ask each other questions. What do they think about different scenarios, and what do they think about your core values, and what are they thinking about their core values? Ask each other questions and come to conclusions and understand where you both stand. And also, if you want to really see what is the strength of your relationship, you can go to our website, and we'll put the link in the description. There is a link which will say relationship strength quiz. Go fill out that questions. You'll be able to see after you, it's like 25 questions. After those 25 questions, you will see how strong is your relationship. You will be able to evaluate your relationship and see, are there areas you need to grow, or are you doing great? How you can move forward in your relationship. So you can have a quality marriage when God brings that into your picture. And with that, we have come to the end of this episode, and we will see you in the another one.